Hey everyone, so if you've ever felt that pain of seeing a final product and realizing it looks nothing like the designs, this one's for you. We're going to break down a really powerful workflow that uses Figma, GitHub, and Supabase to turn those frustrating handoffs into a completely seamless, synchronized development process. All right, let's kick things off with a question that I bet hits pretty close to home for a lot of you. Does it ever just feel like your design team over in Figma and your engineering team deep in the code base are basically living in two completely different worlds? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. That disconnect is honestly one of the biggest sources of friction in software development today. For years, we've all relied on this handoff model, right? A designer polishes up a design and then kind of just throws it over the wall to a developer. But that old way, it's a one-way street, and it's just plagued with problems like design drift and painfully slow feedback. The new way, as you can see, is all about a continuous loop. It's about synchronization, keeping design and code perfectly aligned to a single source of truth, all to achieve one simple, beautiful goal: high velocity.
So, here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll start by really digging into the handoff problem. Then, we'll introduce the solution, these three core synchronization loops. We'll break down each one, syncing design and code, connecting our prototypes to real data, and then automating our backend reliability. And then, we'll see how it all comes together in the end.
Okay, first up, the handoff problem. Because, if we're going to build a better system, we first have to understand exactly why the old way is just so broken. Think of it like a really clumsy relay race. The design team runs their leg, and then they hand off the baton to the development team. But in this race, that baton gets dropped. A lot. Designs get misinterpreted, those last-minute changes aren't communicated, and the final product, well, it rarely matches the initial vision perfectly. These silos just create this constant struggle to keep everything aligned, and that leads to some really costly errors and delays. So, how do we fix this whole mess? Well, the solution isn't just one single tool. It's an entire architectural foundation that's built on three interconnected synchronization loops. This, right here, this is the core concept that makes a truly unified workflow possible. So let's quickly break down these three loops. First, we're going to connect design and code between Figma and GitHub. That's how we'll eliminate design drift. Second, we'll hook up our prototypes to real data with Figma and Supabase, which makes them truly interactive. And third, we'll bring some serious stability to our backend by connecting GitHub and Supabase. And notice those arrows go both ways. That bidirectional sync is the absolute key. All right, our first loop is all about getting design and code in sync. The main goal here is to establish that single source of truth for your UI and just eliminate design drift for good. And the magic ingredient to make this happen, it's something called design tokens. You can think of them as the shared language that both your designers in Figma and your developers in the codebase can instantly understand. They're basically just codified design decisions. Your primary blue color, your main heading font size, your standard padding, all stored as variables and used everywhere. Okay, and this is where it gets really cool, because the whole process becomes fully automated. Imagine a designer updates a color token in Figma. Instantly, tools generate the corresponding code, the JSON, the CSS, whatever you need. This then automatically creates a pull request in GitHub, where now both designers and developers can review the exact same change together before it's merged and deployed. It is a completely seamless pipeline. And this is a massive paradigm shift. The ultimate source of truth for your design system is no longer just some visual file sitting in Figma. It is now the version-controlled token files living in your GitHub repository. And that isn't just a technical change, it's a huge cultural one. Design changes are now treated with the same rigor as application code, complete with reviews, version history, and a full audit trail. Okay, let's move on to our second loop. This one takes us way beyond those static, lifeless mockups. This is where we connect our designs to a real, live backend. And believe me, it's where things get incredibly powerful for prototyping and getting real user feedback. With this loop, your designers can build prototypes that are wired directly to a Supabase backend. So forget about placeholder text. Your prototype can now have real user authentication, it can handle actual file uploads, and it can pull live data right from your database. What that means is a designer can build and test a fully functional sign-up flow, all without ever having to leave Figma. It's a game changer. But here's a really crucial expert-level warning. This stuff is powerful, but it's not magic. The data model that the prototype uses is kind of like a simple shopping list, a basic key value store. Your production database, on the other hand, is more like a complex, interconnected library catalog, a full-on relational SQL schema. This gap creates what we call data model debt, and it's the development team's job to bridge this gap, to treat the prototype as a fantastic spec for the user experience, not as the final data architecture. So, our final loop, this one brings that enterprise-grade reliability to your back end. This is all about applying the principles of GitOps, which basically means managing your database with the same version control and review process you use for your code and applying it directly to Supabase.
And this slide shows that whole process in action. Every single database change starts as a code file in GitHub. When you open a pull request, it triggers a CI check to automatically validate it. Merging to your develop branch deploys it to a staging environment for testing. And finally, merging to main deploys it to production, but with mandatory approvals. Database changes stop being this risky, manual task, and they just become a repeatable, automated, and safe part of your pipeline.
Now that we've seen the 3 individual loops, let's bring it all together. We're going to walk through the entire lifecycle of a single feature to see how they all combine into one beautiful, unified workflow. So it all starts with defining a feature. The designer works in a Figma. Maybe they're even prototyping with Supabase to test the UX. That design change automatically spins up a pull request in GitHub. At the exact same time, a developer is creating the required database migration. Then, both the code and the schema changes get deployed together through a single automated CI/CD pipeline. It's a completely synchronized flow, from the first idea all the way to production. And that brings us to our final thought for today. As you look at your own teams and your own processes, just ask yourself this question. Is your current workflow creating unnecessary friction, or is it enabling a state of seamless, high-velocity flow? The architecture we've just explored today shows that flow isn't just some far-off goal. It's an absolutely achievable reality.